Monsieur le Président,
Presidents, President, Excellencies, heads of state and government, Secretary General of the United Nations, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the history of the United Nations is one of trust and collective responses to the most serious crises. But each of us today sees that today we are at a crossroads. On the one hand, our multilateral model and our aging institutions are no longer able to tackle new challenges, which are admittedly of an unprecedented complexity. On the other hand, our discussions, just as our multilateral commitments in recent years, often are not accompanied by action. That is why there is real reason to be concerned as we look to the future. Concerned for the future of our planet, which is ravaged by complex crises. Concerned for the future of our youth, given the challenges that young people will inherit. And of course, I refer first and foremost to environmental challenges. And finally, concerned about the future of our institutions, which are not adapted to current realities and which no longer fulfill their promises. We have no choice. We cannot persist with our systems that no longer deliver on their promises and no longer reflect the realities of our world. We must begin a profound transformation. That is why I stand before you today with a clear conviction and vision for the future. My conviction is that another way is possible, a way forward where international cooperation is revitalized, is more inclusive and more respectful. And my vision is one of Africa that fully assumes its role as a strategic partner in building new rules for global governance. My first observation is that my country, Togo, looks to the future with hope and determination. In Togo, we are working on a type of development that will be sustainable, but also equitable and inclusive. We know that in order to achieve this, we must build a strong, visionary state that ensures protection. We are doing this as a nation because this is our responsibility towards current and future generations. This requires large-scale investment in our education and healthcare systems. This requires reducing the digital divide. And this also requires a commitment to an environmental transition, as well as action in favor of gender equality. My second observation is that today, looking to the future means looking to Africa. Our continent is no longer just a developing region. It is also the future driver of global growth, because it is Africa that is home and will continue to be home for a long time to the majority of global youth. That is where the strongest development potential resides for emerging markets related to technological innovation and entrepreneurship. It is in Africa that the blue and green economies open up considerable opportunities for sustainable development. Our continent has a wealth of natural resources. When properly leveraged, they can transform Africa into a global hub for clean, renewable energy. And it is also in Africa that we must test out new partnership models that we require, specifically between the private and public sector. My third observation is that addressing the challenges of our times requires effective multilateral cooperation. Challenges in the food security and environmental realms go beyond what each country can address individually and alone. More and more, we are dealing with fundamentally asymmetric crises. These crises quickly and harshly affect regions of the world that are not directly responsible for the causes of those crises. That is why I reiterate my deep conviction. First, given these global threats, the only way to ensure a better future for current and future generations is to take collective and coordinated action by states. And this action, this collective action, must be carried out as part of revitalized global political frameworks. This is in particular true for our efforts when it comes to climate adaptation and resilience. Africa is a region that is one of the most vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. Even though Africa as a continent contributes the least to greenhouse gas emissions, the harmful impact of climate change seen in Africa in terms of food security and the migration the challenges that this causes cannot be underestimated. If we do nothing, the issue of the environment will lead to major waves of migration towards the north, which is clearly something that is a common concern. But this need for collective action is also true when it comes to the challenge of peace and security. And that challenge is also a burden that can no longer be carried by Africans alone. In Western Africa, we face the persistent threat of terrorism. In my view, the answer to this requires a combination of inclusive dialogue, security reform, and economic development initiatives that would address and eradicate the root causes of violence. But we cannot tackle all of these challenges alone. Multilateral cooperation is necessary in order to face this collective threat. We all know that development, the climate transition, and security have all become issues that need to be tackled in a multilateral manner. But to do this, we must first refashion our model for international cooperation. And this brings me to my last observation. We cannot strengthen international cooperation without a new model for partnerships that is more equitable and more respectful towards African states. We urgently need to rethink our model of multilateralism in order to rebalance efforts in the context of international cooperation. And in that context, our continent, Africa, deserves particular attention. First of all, there needs to be more respect, dignity for African states on the international stage. It is time to recognize that we are strategic actors in our own right, capable of making a major contribution to global efforts towards peace, sustainable development, and human dignity. Respect for human dignity is not only a principle that must guide our daily actions within our borders. The respect for and dignity of our peoples must be recognized through their representation and the elevation of their voice, which must be heard and respected in international fora. And finally, we require a new model of international cooperation that is more broadly based on localization. Externally imposed so-called universal solutions can, it is true, have some advantages, but they do not always work. Despite the efforts made in recent years, international aid often remains disconnected from the needs and the capacities of the populations that receive this aid. Localization must be a major commitment to recognize local expertise while allowing states to play their rightful role in defining priorities and implementing programs. Togo is resolved to play a leading role in this transformation, and I call on all international stakeholders to support a more equitable and respectful cooperation. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Africa is ready. It is ready to play its rightful role on the international stage, but it seeks to be respected, listened to, and supported in its efforts in an equitable way. Together, let us work on building a world where each nation and each individual can live in dignity, in harmony with others, and with our planet. I thank you.